Thank you, David. Thanks for that. And thank you for the invite to come here and talk to you about what's been happening in Lough Ennell and the impact of having a number of bodies of working together on this. That's a picture of Lough Ennell, and that famous, fantastic photo was taken by James Crosby of a murmuration, and at the time it was amazing. Just a little bit on bathing water locations in Westmeath. It was a surprise to me to find out there are only 9 designated bathing water locations in the country, and 3 of them happen to be in Westmeath. And we have 2, Portnashangan in Lough Ennell and the Cut in Lough Lane, and they've always been at excellent status. And they are our main reservoirs for the county as well. And the issue is that they are spring-fed lakes. And Lilliput and Lough Ennell has been a poor relation for a number of years, and they are sort of fed from tributaries and surface waters, and that's been in poor status since 2018. Just on the statutory bathing water testing regime, we have an EU directive, I think it's been mentioned so far today. It's actually quite good in the sense that it's actually very easy to operate it in terms of it's actually quite straightforward to understand. And it puts the responsibility firmly on the local authority to carry out these works. We actually have to monitor during the bathing season from June to September. There's been some talk about that should be extended, and it would be a good idea, but there will be resource implications if that is to actually happen. And the classification for bathing water is run over a 4-year cycle, and I'm going to talk about that later on because it is an important. For its status, you can actually have excellent, good, sufficient, or poor. And as I said, we've been poor in Lough Ennell for a number of years. This is the graph of what we like to call the slurry years for Lough Ennell, and we had terrible problems in 2018 and 2019, where we had the small blue line just close to the x-axis. There is the actual threshold from poor, so anything above that line is poor. And you can say that we well excelled that line in 2018, 2019, with a record 35,000 in August of 2018. And it was quite unusual that we were getting it at those particular times, because we wouldn't have thought they were sort of peak slurry spreading seasons. But something obviously was happening in that particular regard, and you can see that was completely unacceptable levels of contamination in it. Here's just Lough Ennell, and it shows the purple area is the PAA that was identified for priority area for action along the Dysart, because we figured that was actually the lead contributor for the particular pollution within Lough Ennell. And the little black flag there is of Lilliput, the bathing water, where all the testing was actually carried out. I've just included, I'm not going to ask you to read it or anything, but that is a section from the Bathing Water Directive, and it's the maths which are used to calculate whether what category your actual bathing water is in. And I like maths, but it's quite ridiculous, really, because it's very in-depth and it's actually very unforgiving. And thankfully, the EPA have provided us with a spreadsheet where you can put in the data and it can see where you're going to come in. And you realize that if you've actually had, it's a rolling average over 4 years, but if you've had really, really high exceedances in 1 year, 4 years, you're not going to get out of that stranglehold unless you're going to really be very, very low figures. And if you have 4 consecutive years, you're off. You're sent off. You no longer actually have a designating bathing water. So we were in a situation that we knew from our looking at the analysis that it was going to be to be able to recover the status of the actual bathing water and for it to continue as a designating bathing water, we were going to actually have extremely low figures. So we had done a lot of things between 2015 and 2019, and we really actually hadn't really got to the bottom of it. We had done sort of dye testing of Lilliput House and public toilets, where we thought that the septic tank there was malperforming, so we tankered everything away. We were carrying out open water sampling. We were looking for testing inflows, and we did PCR analysis with Wim Myers in UCD was kind enough to do a lot of free testing for us. So we were able to identify that there was ruminant fecal markers were present, and they were actually the reason for the actual problem. So we, Dr. Ina Kelly and her team in the HSC took us to task. She's a very emphatic lady, and she decided that we needed to actually up our game and do something about it, or else lose the status of it. So we were helped by the EPA, the Bathing Water team. We had Law Pro and ASSOP in our corner, and we sort of had a multi-stakeholder approach to it. We had public consultation facilitators, IFI, MPPDOs, and our own council environment team, some of whom are here today. So we had an action plan, a management plan to do the works. We had Law Pro on the pitch, and they were going to do some front load, some catchment analysis, and we were going to work closely with our ASSOP, and they were going to facilitate a lot of the farm inspections. This is just some of the reports that were done by Law Pro, where they were able to do some high-level catchment analysis and review of the science, and to try and identify what is actually going to go on and come up with proposed measures. I'm going to talk a little bit about ASSOP. David Webster is in the room. He was very helpful to us in actually how this would be done. It's a confidential voluntary service that is done, and I know it was discussed yesterday. It's collaborative. They have access to funding options, and they have very positive farmer feedback. When they go on to farmers, the farmers have a different reaction to what we have in the local authorities. We're seen as enforcers. They're seen as partners. I'll respect the confidentiality of these farmers, but I have permission to show the photographs just as an example of what we were able to achieve. First farmer, it was it's an excellent enterprise, top of the range in terms of production and efficiency, and they were able to look at increasing the riparian margins, the margins in their fields for the tillage. And also, it's hard to take a photograph, but the actual spraying of that tillage field was so good that you could see that you had weeds right up to the edge, and then you actually had that the weed was within the crop had been killed. So you can see that the actual controls of the actual placement of the pesticides was very good, and that was a really, really rich hedgerow that was on the right, and it showed no ill effects of its neighbouring areas. They were able to put in tanks to take away sort of surface water off dung heaps, and also they were able to do ideas of actually making sure that all the actual surface water and the rainwater coming off the roofs, and there was an extensive amount of that, actually went into a separate system. So all soiled water and rainwater was completely separated. Actually, just want to mention something. Even though the important area was the time that the ASSOP system is able to give to farmers, because we have a different view on time, because we're looking for year to year with the bathing water directives and all that, but you actually have to give farmers time. And this is a development that over about 2 to 3 years, all these improvements were made. This is a different type of a farm enterprise, more marginal land, and the winning thing here was that we're using these solar pumps in place so we could sort of fence off drinking locations. The solar pumps are terrific, and you don't have it in there, but the actual trough that it's been pumped to is about 400 meters away, so you can actually completely separate the idea of cattle going near the water courses in that particular area. And there's further water courses, more work to be done there, and there's further water courses to be actually to be fenced off, and we hope that'll happen this year. Pharmacy. That was another one. It's ongoing work. You can see that there is a drinking location there, and we plan to actually put in a solar pump in there this year and to completely fence that off. We were looking at much better separation from and setback from he had silage fields there, and between the two photographs you can see one is where the slurry was applied with a dribble bar, an LES system, but he had a good 50 meters back from the actual water's edge. They had stopped that, and you can see the slurry-enriched grass as against the non-slurry-rich grass. So we've done a lot of other initiatives in 2021. We concentrated our own RMCEI initiatives in the area. We looked at Law Pro, were involved a lot of the other community groups. There was a lot of additional sampling. We consulted with the local businesses, found out what they actually wanted. We were actually involved with the press as well, and in the municipal district meetings. We involved Irish Water in the catchment analysis in the Upper Brosna, where there's a really good performing wastewater treatment plant. So what was the output? Okay, well, you can see we had our slurry years in 2018, 2019, and then the brown graph is one slight peak that we got in 2020, but you can see we flatlined completely in 2021. And if we hadn't flatlined in 2021, we would have lost the bathing water classification because because of the stats and the way it's worked out, we would have ended up with a poor classification, 4 years poor off the stage. So we just got in there by the skin of our teeth, and for this year, that the status classification for Lilliput will be in what they call changes, which means that we actually are, if we have a good year this year, we will be able to be reclassified for 2023. So we're going to be, again, working and looking at it very carefully this year. We have to introduce new initiatives whereby if we have a yellow warning or an orange warning for rainfall events, we will actually have to put on social media to warn potential bathers that it may not be a good idea. Key learnings, we needed a working group, we needed a multi-stakeholder group, we needed a forum that we could actually all connect, we could talk, we could share ideas. We needed independent analysis, and we needed to actually ASSEP on the ground, having clear communication to the stakeholders. We were able to supply the information and they were able to do it. There was a clear separation from what ASSEP were doing and what we were doing. I know this has been a point of debate in the local authority, but having seen it at first hand, it's very important for that separation to be there, because that confidentiality is actually quite important. And we have incentivized, there has been support, financial and otherwise, for behavioural change by a number of farmers. So look, it's going to go on. We're going to actually, we still have a key management, bathing water management plan for this year, so we can actually maintain our status going forward for 2023. Law Pro and the facilitators, Alan Otter, are still doing consultation. Consultation is actually very important, because, look, as a hardwired civil engineer, I'm very used to statutory consultation, and that's where the engineer has the big idea, and we go and we tell the public the big idea. Oh no, we want them to say, let's give us permission to go ahead with it. But that doesn't work here, because the big ideas are actually in the community, and this is the way it's been done here. Like, they bring them for a walk, they even give them a buffet, and they give them a workshop, like it's as if they actually want them to turn up, which is not the way we used to do things, you know. And that is the only way you can actually get the good things out of the community. So look, thank you very much for attention. I don't know whether this is working out, but this is the lakes that we have here. They're great for swimming in, or if you pick the right day, you can surf in them as well, because it can work. So thank you very much. I'm more than happy to answer your questions.